The Command Your Business Podcast, episode number 9.
Hey! 1, 2, 3, 4, hey! Rum me now, rum me now, rum me some more, hey! Rum me now, rum me now, rum me some more, hey! The lead kids go! 1, can't hear you! 2, a little louder! 3, all get together! 4.
Welcome to the Command Your Business Podcast. Learn from military veterans who have become entrepreneurs and business leaders and take command of your business or career. At ease, everyone. 9 episodes and counting. It's been a great ride so far. I've really enjoyed it. I hope that you've gotten as much out of these interviews as I have. If you're a fan of the television show Shark Tank like I am, I think you're really going to enjoy this next interview with an active duty United States Marine Corps officer who was on the show and got an investment from Shark Tank. So it's going to be a great episode, and I think you're really going to love this one. I'd like to ask a favor if you have just a quick minute. If you're listening on an Apple device, love for you to go into iTunes, give us a star rating, and if you've got another 30 seconds, go in and leave us a review. Why is this important? It helps people like yourself find us. It helps us get higher in Apple's rankings in iTunes. So if you could do that, we would really appreciate it. Stop by commandyourbusiness.com. There you can sign up for our email list and get a great guide to boot. And drop us a comment in our episodes. Each one of our guests' information is on there, how you can connect with them, information about their businesses, and leave us a comment. We really love hearing, and I really love hearing your feedback and what you like and what you don't like. If you want to connect with me personally, Scott at commandyourbusiness.com. If you've got a question, if you have a potential guest, or you could be a potential guest yourself, drop me an email. I'd love to hear from you. We've got a great episode coming up, so here we go. Our guest today is Rob Dyer, CEO of RuckPack. If you've seen the ABC hit show Shark Tank, you may remember Rob from an episode in the fall of 2012. Major Dyer is an active-duty Marine Corps aviation officer, a highly decorated combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, and an entrepreneur who is combining his wartime experience and business acumen to create supplemental nutrition and energy products for military and active civilians alike. Rob, I'd first just like to thank you for your service. I know you've had multiple deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan. I know you've had significant commitments that you've made to this country, and I want to thank you for your service and welcome you to the podcast.
Scott, thank you very much for having me on, sir. It's an honor to be here. It's people do that whole thing that, they thank you for your service, and that's hugely appreciated. But really, I mean, it's a job I'd pay to do, and they pay me to do it. So I'm happy where I am.
Well, this country is certainly fortunate to have people like you doing the job that you're doing. I just kind of gave your 50,000-foot biography, but could you give us a little bit more on your background and how did you end up in the Marine Corps?
Sure, absolutely. The 30-second version. If I went to the Naval Academy and selected the Marine Corps option out of there, I had a pretty strong feeling I wanted to go to Marine Corps when I went to that school, and just my entire time there, it only solidified it. There was a summer training, and after doing that summer training, I knew that that's what I wanted 100%. I wasn't the best student on the planet, so I really had to perform over those summer periods in order to try and get in there. But luckily, they saw fit to put me in there. So I made that, and from there, typical timeline, I think. I went down to Pensacola, Naval Air Station Pensacola, as a backseater, a Wizzo. Ended up selecting F-18s, did 2 deployments as a F-18 backseater. And it was on that second deployment, which was in Iraq, where I saw that I really wanted to take part in the ground operations. I wanted to be a forward air controller. So came back from that deployment, asked some questions of some facts that I was working with at the time while we were in Iraq. And then one of those units actually gave me a call, and it was Force Recon. So I went out there, did the screener, took some push-ups, did some push-ups for friends, and and was lucky enough to be selected for Force Recon. So that was my first FAC tour. And then from there, deployed right back to Iraq. So I had 2 trips to Iraq. Came back, went from Force Recon to Marine Special Operations Commander, MARSOC. did another FAC tour there, and actually ended up doing a third FAC tour with MARSOC as well. So total of three FAC tours, 2 trips to Iraq, 2 trips to Afghanistan, a couple of trips in between here, there, and everywhere.
So kind of backing up a little bit to, and we'll kind of drill down into some of these if we can. So FAC for maybe our civilian listeners or someone who's an Army guy like myself. What's FAC is what?
A FAC is a forward air controller. The Marine Corps, they're big into not reinventing a wheel, and airstrike coordination is tough. It's 3-dimensional. There's a lot going on. You're talking to fast-moving jets and helicopters with a lot of bang on them, and so the Marine Corps decided the best way to do that is to just bring a pilot out of the cockpit pit, put him on the ground next to that platoon commander or that ground force commander, and have him still coordinate all the airstrikes, but speak the speak already, so that the platoon commander or the ground force commander doesn't have to learn anything new. He could just tell the pilot, "Hey, make that house go away," and the pilot knows how to make that happen.
So what was so I guess and before that you were a backseater or a Wizzo, and what again for our listeners who are ground pounders like myself or maybe our civilians, what does that entail?
A Wizzo is a weapons systems officer, and what they do is essentially, for lack of a better term, fly the bomb into the target. The pilot will be, that front seater is up there doing airspace deconfliction. In the back seat, a lot of times I'm doing the comms and kind of suitcasing, putting the entire package together to take the bomb from the jet into the target. It's kind of like team mentality up there. We're kind of conversing the entire time back and forth, but I'm scribbling and I'm on the maps and I'm deconflicting airspace and making sure that the friendlies are where they say they are and where the bad guys say they are. And so once that bomb comes off the rails, I'm then lasing the target and flying that bomb essentially into the target.
So I got to think that's very critical, understanding where friendly forces are. I can imagine that's a huge issue, as fast moving as you're going, as fluid as the battlefield is in Afghanistan. That's got to be a huge challenge.
We call those seat suckers. You kind of suck your seat up in there, and you're never hoping you're right. Obviously, I mean, your plan better be better than hope, but all the same, you're putting everything you got into making sure that exactly what you have in front of you is exactly what's on the deck, on the ground there to support the guys.
I guess in those first 2 deployments, what were some of your biggest challenges? Obviously, one of them being the identifying the friendly forces and making sure that's critical. What are some other things that were issues or challenges?
Well, I would say one of the larger challenges is that the guy that you're talking to on the ground isn't always a forward air controller. Enablers are often in short supply. Enablers being, like corpsmen or EOD guys or, just the guys that you attach onto a ground force. So a forward air controller or a JTAC, a joint terminal attack controller, is also a short supply guy. So some of our largest frustrations were looking down on the ground and what appears to us as a clear-cut 2-way rifle range and not being able to drop a bomb on the deck just because the guy just, whoever it is just isn't an aircraft guy. He's not a pilot. He's not a Wizzo, and is just having a hard time trying to figure out the geometry and how to pull the bomb off. Because he can't just say, "Hey, we're down here in a fight, drop a bomb." Right? He's got to have the entire thing deconflicted, the geometry, the 3D space, everything kind of hammered out ahead of time. So some of that frustration came when we're looking down. We think we've got the entire thing solved, but until you get the clearance from that person that controls it, you're not dropping a bomb. So better to be safe, obviously, than sorry. But at the same time, I just felt like there was more I could do on the ground. And when I had the chance, I jumped on it.
So, and just kind of going back to that scenario, with those challenges, are there any parallels there to being the CEO of RuckPack and running your own company with, people talking different languages, people thinking that something is clear and makes sense, but in reality, something, on the other end, they don't understand it at all?
All the time. If you can, in your mind, translate the whole thing into business, then absolutely there are so many things that are directly applicable. And what I found is that there are times all the time when I'm up all night when that email comes at 3 a.m. when I've been working on, 5 other topics already for the business, and that 3 a.m. email is the one I've been waiting for a month and a half. Am I going to reply? Am I going to, is it really smart to reply when I haven't had a lot of sleep? You're kind of struggling with that, but then you don't want somebody else to jump on it and possibly take a good deal for you, so that speed of execution, that kind of urgency to make sure it gets done and it gets done timely and it gets done well happens all the time. The only difference is obviously for vets, there are never, ever, ever bullets flying.
Yep.
And if you can kind of, skin the cat like that, and you can put it in the back of your mind that, hey, no, at the end of the day, no matter what, there are no bullets flying. This is going to be fine. You end up just crushing business. I think I think you end up doing a lot better.
So I can certainly see how that is a huge asset. So you did 2 roles in the back seat, and then you went over to as a forward air controller or a FAC with MARSOC, which is Marine Special Operations Command, correct?
Yep, that's it.
So can you talk this a little bit more in detail on kind of what your role was and what were some of the challenges as you deployed with the team over to Afghanistan?
There, it's a lot more fluid battle space. It's not, especially with a lot of Special Operations Command units, when they're doing their foreign internal defense or they're attaching to, like Afghan National Army or, some in-country force already, you're doing that same thing, but you can't really jump on the radio and coordinate because I don't speak Dyer or Pashto. You know what I mean? So yeah. I can't jump on there and say, hey, make sure you're clearing building 105 because 107 is about to go away. That type of deal. So it's definitely, you got to be way up front, making sure don't just trust what you're hearing. I think they're in 105. I think you're good to go. You know what I mean? You have to be up there making sure with your own eyeballs, everybody's where they're supposed to be. And then you're still trying to get, a lot of aircraft ordnance onto the target.
And what were some of the challenges in your missions with Marine Special Operations Command? I mean, as far as logistics wise, timing, how long were you out outside the wire? How long might you be gone for?
We would be gone. Let's see. Sometimes on the low end, I mean, we'd sometimes go out just for an overnighter and come back, so just a couple of days. But sometimes we'd be out for 7 days. And actually, there was one point where I left. And I didn't come back for 5 weeks.
Wow.
And it was you're just out. And, you would go from one place to another place and just kind of refit the vehicle and load up and keep going. And you're just always operating. And you're just kind of, it's not a gunfight every day, right? But still, you're out. You're away from your little mini home that you have there in Afghanistan. So that was, and you can call in air supply, and that would be another job that fell into kind of my purview is calling in a resupply. But even still, you're living off MREs, and it's not that MREs don't have everything. Like I'm sure you've lived off those too. Mm-hmm. It's just you need the time to sit there and eat a meal, and sometimes you just don't even have that time. So and that's actually not leading too much into it, but that's where RuckPack came from. Is that it was just we were just busy. You're busy all the time, busy doing busy work. Sometimes busy getting in a fight. Whatever it is, you're busy, and you're good on water because it's sitting right there all the time. But getting those calories in and getting that nutrition sometimes was kind of falling by the wayside just from everything you were doing.
Yeah, if anyone who's ever tried to choke down an MRE cracker and peanut butter quickly, it's not happening.
It's a challenge. It's like, if they make it a challenge, it's obviously not easy.
So that's kind of really your deployment to to Afghanistan is really where the kind of the genesis of the idea for RuckPack.
Absolutely. And you know what? It was actually I think if you call it, chicken or egg, whatever came first, I think it was we wanted to start a veteran-owned business first. And when we looked at what problems we wanted to solve in the world, this was it. And once it landed, that was that, and it was pretty easy to figure out what we wanted.
Now coming up with the idea, were you working with someone on the team with special operations, or someone that you knew outside of your unit, or?
The initial steps for RuckPack, the entire team was involved. And that was such a cool thing to have that happen, and to know that that's truly where it was born, was with almost every individual on the team. That's one of my favorite parts of this business, is that I know that those guys, the genesis of this whole thing came from everybody's input. And it was, we at first we kicked around ingredients, but without a computer and the ability to research, we stuck to, let's try and fix symptoms instead. And then when when we got back to the States, I called in manufacturers and ingredient manufacturers and started hunting down ways to fix symptoms instead of looking for a specific ingredient.
So you started with, did you start directly with an energy drink, or did the kind of the course of the product start somewhere else? It
definitely started somewhere else. We bootstrapped this. We didn't take out a huge loan. I took out a very small SBA loan, not even really because I needed it, because it wasn't even big enough to do anything. But we bootstrapped a lot of this, and the whole time we're going through there, we just, we're asking for how much can I get for the money that we had in energy drinks. I mean, it was going to be like a $500,000 investment right off the bat. Energy shots, forget about it. That was $500,000 just to get the shots. And then it was going to go up from there just to do all the logistics of everything else surrounding that. Wow. So we actually started with a pill pack, and the pill packs were awesome. I mean, the first pill pack we took, it was everything we were looking for. But who wants pill packs? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's just there's a market for it. I mean, obviously there are pill packs out there already, but it's very niche, and we wanted something that was going to affect everyone. We wanted something that everybody could benefit from, this special operations supplement shot, this drink, and we were always trying to get into a shot since about 2009. And then by 2010 is when we could finally scrape enough money to do it.
Now, why was the decision made to do this while still on active duty?
Well, I read a lot of like Entrepreneur Magazine and Fast Company and, Inc. And it seems like every single time they're talking about the entrepreneur section, they're always telling you don't quit your day job. Mm-hmm. So I looked at it, I was like, we can do that. It's obviously tough. We have one, it's not like you're a traveling salesman or something like that, that is our day job. We have that little added risk that, oh, by the way, day job might mean you deploy. Yeah. So we actually just set something up in the company, and we said, look, for anybody that is going to work on this, if you deploy, you're just out. You need to be able to, and that, businesses deal with reserves all the time that have that happen, right? So we just took that approach. We're like, it's almost like you're a reservist getting called up. You're not going to work for RuckPack. You go deploy, focus on that. The rest of the team will take care of it. And so we always had to have that capability in the company.
Yeah, and that's something that I want to make sure that people are listening to this understand, that Rob and his team at RuckPack, they are serving our country, have a significant commitment, but at the same time, they're still able to get this product off the ground, to work with labs and manufacturers and handle logistics and do all this. That what you think is impossible is not impossible. I mean, this is living proof of what you can do with a quote unquote day job. And many people that maybe are out today that or have never served, you can still do your day job and create something on the side and take it to the next level. I mean, Rob and his team is a perfect example of that.
Yep, I agree. And there's been so many times where there's always going to be those times when you're starting a business where you're grinding on that and you're just thinking, man, what am I doing? It's like I said, it's 3:00 in the morning. And I was up till 1:30 last night. I'm always up doing something, and you're catching catnaps when you can, and you're just trying to get through and make it happen. But it's almost like I'm a horrible golfer, but I'll always have one shot in 18 holes, where it's just like, you know what? I'm coming back. Like there's a glimpse, so this is the exact same thing. You're going to trudge along, you're going to be grinding, and something's going to pop, and you're going to say, you know what, we can do this. Keep going. And you start pulling the thread on, your avenue. Because like I said, we started as pills. Mm-hmm. And that was tough living for a while. But once we got the shot going and we saw that there was a bite on it, pour the gasoline on the fire, go all in on it, do everything you can to keep grinding and make it happen.
So you started with the pill packs. You realized that, it wasn't going somewhere as fast as you wanted. So you pivoted and went to the energy shot. How did you know you had a real hot idea on your hands? How did you know it could be something big? You know
what? I've seen other people start businesses, and when they tell their friends and their family, and they sit there and they kind of nod, and they're like, "Yeah, man, that's really cool. That's a great thing to go on," and it just ends right there. We had that. That's what was happening to us with the pill pack. It's like, hey, man, that's a good idea. When we made the shot and people took the shot and they read the ingredients, when that conversation changes to say, hey, I want to buy some, they're like, no, here, just take it. No, I want to support this. I'm going to buy this from you. That's when it's just like, okay, this is real. Make it. This is the one right here. Stick with this and drive this all the way into a home run. So. You just keep bumping along and you wait for that opportunity. When people want to support with their time and their effort and their money, like friends and family want to support with their money as opposed to just catching the free ride, that's when you've got something good and you go all in on that.
So and I read a little bit of your background, but so what did you do to go all in with the company?
Well, I was a huge fan of the TV show Shark Tank. Huge fan. Just, I love how they get on there and they just get hammered away with questions that maybe every business owner should be asking themselves, but probably don't. Or if it's a tough question, they just kind of gloss over it and keep going. But that'll be your undoing later on in your business career. You know what I mean? So, I'd always been a fan, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go down to an open casting. And I went down to like an open casting call down in LA for season 3 of Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. Flew through the early rounds, tested really well, I thought, and then got booted right before I was actually set to travel. So, again, keep grinding, because I was actually not on Shark Tank originally. I was kicked off and not asked to be on there. So we kept grinding, and actually because of something else, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to say all these names or not, but there's a free website called Help a Reporter Out. Mm-hmm. Where reporters with short timelines will jump on there and say, hey, I need somebody for this. Well, I answered one, and it ended up being like, that was how it started, and the ending was like a 4 or 5 page spread on RuckPack in Entrepreneur magazine.
Wow.
Beautiful full color layout, just incredible article. Well, one of the producers of Shark Tank actually read that article and gave me a call on my cell phone. I'm just walking down the street one day and my phone rings and I randomly answered it, and it's this producer who didn't even know that I auditioned and was kicked off the season prior.
Oh, wow.
And he just asked, and I was like, he said, well, why don't you tell me what you've done since we kicked you off, I said, well, and I got kind of huffy with him. And I said, well, we kept at it, and we scraped the money together ourselves for these shots, and they flew off the shelf, and we sold out in 5 weeks. He said, well, it sounds like you'd be a great contestant for the next season. And that was that.
Well, so, and if I can back up just real quick, and I think that's a important point for someone that might be listening here. Can you talk a little bit about again, so you went to Help a Reporter Out, and I think there's a couple of sites on the internet that do this, but so you went and submitted some information there, and it sounds like that may have been some of the turning point, and that's something that anyone that has a business or anything can do, correct?
Yes, and that was incredible. That helper, that free little hit. And when I replied to it, I replied 2 or 3 sentences. I kept it short, conversational. Hey, this is what's up. This is us. Interested? Really, really short. And they replied back, yeah, tell me more. And then we got on the phone, started talking, and that was that. That turns into like a 5 or 7 page. I didn't pay a ton. Like, I didn't pay every dime I had out of my pocket for some marketing company to go and do some, we did it for free.
You got a huge spread, Entrepreneur magazine, basically from filling out a couple of lines in a site online that costs you nothing.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And from there, the producers and, we had a couple different PR hits that came out of that, but Shark Tank was obviously the runaway winner.
So you got the call from the producer. They have interest now. What happens next?
As soon as they say you're kind of in the running, that, hey, we might consider you, I got on the phone with the guys. We started talking, and actually we had more conference calls getting ready for me going on there. Unreal. And I mean, this is another thing that vets are good at. I mean, it was funny. There was a point where the producers, just kind of in trying to prep you, will, try to be tough on you just to see if you'll crack. Oh, man. There is nothing that some TV show producer is going to do to you that your friends won't do to you for, 10 times worse, because they just don't care. They do it because they love you. And anybody can put on a DI hat and just crush you for hours if you ask them to, So I felt very well prepared by the time it was time to fly to LA and shoot that show. I felt very prepared.
Yes, I can imagine some of my friends really helping, quote unquote, helping me out that way as well. So,
right. Hey, man, can I call you and can you just yell at me for about 45? Oh, yeah, I'll call you right now. No, you know what I mean? Like, my phone's ringing right now.
So you fly out for the taping. What's that like? I mean, is it a couple of days? Is it obviously it's not as short of time as we saw on television. What's that like?
It is a couple days. I mean, there's nothing made up about that show. I've seen like blogs and conspiracy theorists or whatever, like, oh, they all know it. No, you don't.
Yeah, you can see by the reactions, at least in my personal opinion, you can see by the positive and or negative reactions. It looks absolutely real in my book.
Yep. I would say the only thing is obviously they're going to edit, right? There's, it's not live 100%. There's going to be an edit there. So in actuality, that makes it worse because it's much longer than what you see. And it's like that the entire time. So have everything in one sock, so to speak, because they're going to bring their A game and they're going to keep pulling the threads. And if, you can see them getting excited when they smell blood in the water, and they talk about that all the time. But really, that's kind of true for anybody that you've ever talked to that runs a company. If they have something that they're trying to hide, just as an outsider, you can find that. It's just like you're having some trouble with logistics, aren't you? And it's yeah, we are. So we knew what we were good at. We knew what we were kind of failing at, and I didn't really make any excuses for it. And I think that helped.
So how long were you actually, obviously in the editing, you get grilled for 5 to 10 minutes. How long are you actually up there presenting to the Sharks and kind of taking your, so to speak, beating?
I think I've heard the average is somewhere between 45 and an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you definitely have to know.
And you don't get to bring a notebook. So it's like, what'd you do in revenue last year? You have to have all those numbers pat, no problem.
And if anyone hasn't seen the show, I would suggest you go out, take a look. I mean, there's several places where you can download the previous episodes. It was 2012, and it was episode. What was the episode?
It was episode 10. Episode
10. Absolutely well worth a look. You should go out there. You can probably, I know you can buy it on Amazon for like $1.99. Well worth the $2 to go and see how Rob pitched his company, pitched his idea, was able to answer all of the Sharks' questions, knew it backward and forward. Absolutely worth the $2 to go and look at that.
And we really treated this like a military evolution. Like you're standing up and you're giving a brief to a commander or unit commander or something like that. There was not a question that I hadn't heard 20 times already, no matter what it was, whether it was great question and a great little softball, here you go, or it was a super tough looking, look inside the company question, I'd heard it 20 times already. I already had a decision matrix, almost like a little ORM matrix. I had a decision matrix for what percentage of the company I would give up based on whatever the investor was that made the offer.
Wow.
So really there wasn't even a decision process when they started making offers. I was like, yep, you're cleared. Yep, you're cleared. We're in. That's it.
And I think that's a lesson that a lot of people that are listening that maybe have businesses today or are thinking about starting a business, prepare some more. If you're pitching to an investor, potential customer, if you're pitching your company at an event, at a show, be prepared. Think of all the possible contingencies and have an answer for when someone asks you that difficult question.
And we've spoken to investors before and after the show, and it's the same thing. They're asking the same questions, you're asking the same timelines, and they're asking the same tough questions. So, exactly what you're saying is the case, where before even talking to them, I know what questions they're going to ask. I'm prepared for whatever they're going to say. And if I'm not prepared, don't dance around it. I don't know. I'll get you the answer. I should know it. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Don't make excuses.
And making up an answer is the absolute worst thing that you can do. And
I used to early on in the company. It's just it's because you don't want to look weak or whatever it is, because you love your baby and this is your heart and soul, and you don't want it to go down in flames when somebody's just crushing you right before your eyes. But the bottom line is that looks worse.
Absolutely, and it's actually redeeming if you say, hey, I don't know the answer, but then you follow back up. You go back a day later, 30 minutes later, whatever it takes to get the answer, and you follow up with someone. You shoot them that email, you give them the call. Hey, you asked me this. I should have known this. I didn't, but hey, here's the answer.
Absolutely.
And that gives you so much more credibility. So I think that's a great lesson as well. So you're getting grilled for 45 minutes. What was, for people that maybe didn't see the episode, kind of what was the outcome of your visit to Shark Tank?
I went on the show asking for $75,000 for 10% of the company. And in the end, I received offers for exactly that times 2.
Wow. So
you go on there, like I said, with that decision matrix, I'm going to ask for 10%, but it's Shark Tank. They're going to double it. They're going to triple it. You know what I mean? How high or how much of the company are you willing to give away for this chance to be on air, for this chance to have them as a strategic partner? And that's kind of what you're thinking the entire time. And in the end, when 2 sharks came in for less than what I would have taken from just one of those sharks, I was all over that.
And the benefit, specifically to Shark Tank, are, obviously getting the money is important, but getting the investor is equally important. Am I correct?
It is. And if you treat it like, those same magazines I was talking about earlier, that I used to always read those, and they'd always talk about how awesome vets are for franchising, because franchising usually comes with a direction set, you know what I mean? Like a cookbook for how to run the business. Mm-hmm. And we can follow directions like champions. So this really isn't that much different. They're not in the energy shop business, but they're in the business. You know what I mean? Like, they're really good at being rich. So when the rich guy replies and says, hey, take a look at this, I don't need to reinvent the wheel on that. I take a look at exactly what he says to look at and make sure that, I'm minding my P's and Q's there. And I don't need to have him prove to me why that's important. And that saves a ton of time, because I know, I've heard from them. They have other businesses where they say, hey, I think maybe you should take a look at this. And they're like, well, you don't really know what you're talking about. And it's just, for us, I told them right from the beginning, like, hey, I'm here I don't think that you're going to come and work at my company and grind 20 hours a day like I am. Mm-hmm. But if you've got pointers, I'll take them, and I'll never argue about it. So with that, they're very, I think they obviously sift out what they send my direction too, because they know that I'm pretty much fire and forget.
So, you get the money, you get the investors on board. What's the timeline between, when you filmed the show and then when it actually aired?
Mine actually was very quick. I shot the show in September and we aired in November.
Oh, wow.
And from what I've heard from other entrepreneurs, that it's usually closer to like 6 months.
What happened to your sales, the interest, the day after that episode aired?
Killed it. It was like a dream, Scott. Yeah, we did $35,000 the entire year going up to the air date. Mm-hmm. And we did that like in the first 3 hours. Wow. And I mean, it's like, and I call the website guys and I'm like, get ready, it's going to shut down. They're going to, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, be ready for like 1 million people to be, and the website still goes down. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way to prepare for absolutely every contingency. It's just, hey, get it back online as soon as possible. We're missing sales, and then ramp up your customer service because you know that you're missing some sales. So try and follow back with people, follow up on the social media. So, yeah.
I can imagine totally. I was watching the episode, and what am I doing while I'm sitting there on my iPad? Google RuckPack. Oh, okay. And then, digging in right away. So I can imagine that times 1 million.
Yep. And I'm watching that on, my Google Analytics. I'm just watching this thing just zing and just like, keep the website alive,
I can imagine. Now, I mean, obviously after you filmed and you got the positive result, the investment, did you guys then just start going to prep mode for knowing when this thing is going to air, that it's taking off? Did you start ramping up inventory? And obviously you did a lot of work with the website guys.
We did, but obviously the inventory was one of our issues when I was on the show. Mm-hmm. So we literally received pictures. I received pictures on my phone from the manufacturer about 2 hours before airtime on the East Coast of the first bottles rolling off the line. That was close. And now, that was, but hey, no bullets were flying. We're fine. Keep going.
Oh, that's, what's kind of your lead time from the manufacturer out to your distributors or out to the end user?
Anymore, it's 6 to 8 weeks from idea to delivery.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I've heard that that's fast. I've heard that that's slow, but it's kind of what we stick to just to make sure that we're not trying to shove something through, the wrong shape through the wrong hole that it's not going to fit,
So from idea to delivery, so you guys have multiple, I'm assuming, products now. Or I guess when you pitched on the show, what did your product line look like at that point?
We pitched on the show, we had one shot, one flavor, non-caffeinated only. And that's actually digs into the bigger idea of what our entire brand is. We've always wanted to be a special operations supplement brand the entire time. Mm-hmm. Well, we could do, we didn't have a ton of money, so we could try and do all of our products just a tiny bit, or find out if this thing's going to stick, do one really, really well, and then grow the rest of the product line from there. So that's kind of where we are right now. We've made some partnerships recently that I'm not I think I could talk about, but I'm not positive, so I won't.
Okay, sure.
But made some partnerships recently, and I think within the next 6 to 12 months, you're going to see maybe 4 or 5 products from us.
Oh, wow.
And we already I have a different flavor in production right now with some improved formula stuff. So we're always tweaking and always, just because it's great now doesn't mean that new science isn't going to prove something else tomorrow. So we always take a look at that. And if there's something better on the street, then we'll tweak. Because again, we just fix symptoms. We have 0 marriages to any specific ingredients that's in our bottle.
So continually improve, continually looking for better ingredients, better processes. So it's always looking, hey, that you don't have the best thing, or your product can always be improved. So you're always looking for something that's going to give you that edge.
Absolutely. Yep.
So what are some of the challenges that you're facing today?
Let's see. For us, I think this is for anybody that's going onto a shelf. You always fight the gap. There's this gap between when you have to order and pay your manufacturer versus when the store that sells it at the other end pays you.
It's a cash flow.
It's a cash flow deal. So it's there's different creative ways to do it. It doesn't always have to break you. It doesn't always have to break all your investors, and if you grow that kind of organically and if you force this, we kind of forced the slow growth model. And because of that, I think we're a little bit better prepared to roll out an entire chain. And actually, one thing that I know I can announce is that we're going to probably roll out 9,000 stores in Walgreens in January.
Wow.
And if you look online right now at RuckPack, we're about 500 stores.
Wow, so you're going to go from 500 to basically
9,500
to 9,500 Walgreens across the country.
Right.
Oh.
So, and that's, and that'll be about a year and 1 year, 1 month after airing on Shark Tank. So we could have done this we could have jumped on right away and said, hey, that's it, drink from the fire hose, go, go, go. But we wanted to make sure that we had the logistics in place, that we had the bandwidth to be able to handle this, and that we could do this on our own, to make sure that we were able to grow this the way we wanted to grow it.
Because you could have very easily gone that route and said, hey, we're going to now push this out immediately, and then your manufacturer can't keep up, your customer service can't keep up, and then you're creating more issues than you can solve.
That happens all the time. That happens to businesses all the time. They think the brass ring is to get into a huge national chain. They get there one time, they blow it trying to make it happen the first time, and so as soon as they hit the reorder button and they can't deliver, well, then you're more pain than I want to work with. I'm not even going to try and order from you again. And you're a one-hit wonder. You had it one time, and then it never works again.
Yeah, so you guys have obviously gone the smart route. You in 500 stores today. Now, do you sell direct also?
We do. We sell online. We have a couple other distributors that are online as well. So they offer a couple different packages. We work with them. We make sure our pricing matches all across the board. And that's been kind of an interesting animal to kind of grow that direction as well. And say, to be a CEO of a company, to say, I have to ask what I can price my product at, because there are a lot of cats and dogs out there selling it now. And you just want to make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music. So, yes, we sell directly, and we have independent salesmen. And actually, that's something that when we said we wanted to start a company, it's because we wanted to hire vets. And now we have some vet salesmen out there, and we call them our team of veterans and patriots. So not everybody's a veteran, but the guys that aren't just love the company, love working with vets, and they're just awesome patriots, and they just want to help out too. So they're out there selling RuckPack as well.
And what better way to sell a brand, a RuckPack, the special operations, energy shot with veterans out there selling your product. I mean, I can imagine that's a huge win when you're talking to distributors and to customers as well.
Yep, it is.
Now your company also does a lot giving back to veterans organizations. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. We've always worked with the MARSOC Foundation. I think since we first came out with a shot, I've been talking to those guys forever. One of the reasons why is we don't talk about it too much, when we're doing TV and stuff like that. But my family actually needed support from a military charity at one time,
mm-hmm.
and it was actually when we did it. It was, even though I'm a Marine, the Navy SEAL Foundation came through for us, no questions asked, and helped move my family cross country like at the drop of a hat. So when we needed that, we're just the type of people, we're the type of family where my wife and I kind of looked at that and said, we got to pay these guys back, and just they're helping great people, they're doing good things, and we always just kind of felt like, hey, this is what we can do. This is why we do what we're doing. You find every way possible just to keep supporting the community that kind of raised you, so we've worked with MARSOC Foundation for a couple of years, and now actually we're bringing on the Green Beret Foundation, and we're going to be a regular contributor to the Navy SEAL Foundation as well. So I'm really excited to be working with those guys. They're just awesome. I've been on the user end of that. I've seen what it's done for families when, I've had really, really good friends die, obviously, in combat, and see those organizations step up and just thread the needle and get you everything you need right this second, no questions asked. You have other things to worry about. That's just been awesome for those families, and they continue to do that still today.
And I think that's a great point for people that are, or have interest in your product, or want to help these organizations. I mean, by just buying RuckPack, you've got you're helping veterans. One, by it's a veteran-owned business, so you're helping the veterans that are running it, like yourself. But two, this company is giving back and helping those organizations that have actually personally helped you and some of your team.
Yep, absolutely. And when we were kind of spinning that as a business model, there's not. I mean, we try to make it great for you for every angle you could possibly think of. We contribute. We are vets. It's healthy. We try to make it kind of the full package.
Yeah, I mean, it's a win-win-win. You get a one. You got to have a great product, or this whole thing is not going to work anyway.
Yes, sir.
And what's and we've kind of talked about everything that you're doing with RuckPack. We're talking like this is your full-time job every day. What else? What is your quote? If this is your night job, I guess what's your day job right now?
I am still, like you said, I'm active duty. I am currently on a ground tour. I'm on I guess they call it like a shore tour. I'm stationed at the United States Naval Academy, and I'm a faculty professor.
So you're a professor, so you have to teach classes, prepare for classes, work with the midshipmen there at the Naval Academy, during the day, which obviously is a significant amount of time. And then I'm assuming you're coming home and pretty much working on RuckPack in the evenings, weekends, whatever else, whenever you can cram the time in.
Yeah, and let me tell you something, Scott. When we were deciding on these orders, I let my wife pick these orders, actually. She's like, you're going to find a way to get to the academy. And so it was on my end to make it happen. But when we looked at that, we said it was going to be awesome, easy days. I tell you, man, sometimes I am busier here than I was on some of my ground deployments. Because you're recruiting the entire time. You're here, you're selling the Marine Corps, you want the best and brightest midshipmen to select Marine Corps at service selection time. I'm an officer rep for one of the clubs. I'm the fitness coach for the rugby team. You're involved all the time, and plus you just love to be involved. It's a fun job, but it's still a job where sometimes I'm not getting back till 7 or 8 at night. Just because there's stuff going on, and we're busy every weekend, and I'm up at 4:30 every morning to be ready for the team workout at 5:30 every morning. So, yeah, it's busy.
What's the ratio there at the Naval Academy for Marines to Navy on the faculty?
I think it's a little bit fluid, but I want to say somewhere between 16 and 19% of every graduating class has Marine Corps option.
So how about the faculty-wise? Is that pretty similar, or?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, faculty. There are 50 Marine Corps officers on the yard or on the campus. There are I can't remember the ratio, but it's actually very small. In any one department, that has maybe 50% civilian and 50% military. If they had that ratio, I would say maybe 10 or 20% of that military faculty would be Marine Corps.
So you're really having to, to the selling point. I mean, a much smaller contingent, probably less exposure to Marines on campus. You really do have to put that sales hat on every day of the week, I can imagine.
Right, and you just need to be out there. So it's funny because you'll always see Marine officers at sporting events. It's like, hey, what are you doing here? It's just like, and it's like it's almost like you're on a recruiting duty.
So, I mean, I absolutely thank you for the time, and just kind of want to wrap it up a little bit. But, want to hit a couple of key points that I think are key that you've talked about here. That if people have been listening to this interview, it's the little things that can really take you to the next level. A lot of this started when you went to the Hire a Reporter site, filled out some information, then they get featured on Entrepreneur Magazine, then you get Shark Tank calling, air on Shark Tank, and now you're at the point where you're getting other people on board. So, little things can really do a lot.
Yes. Yeah, and I would say even to further that, there's going to be a time and a place that we're going to have a proper marketing plan, right? There's going to be plenty of time to blow all your money. You don't need to do it the very first week you're in business.
And, for our listeners that maybe are thinking about starting a business, maybe they're a veteran who's completed their service or is about to get out, and not sure the civilian life is for them. Maybe they don't want to go and work somewhere and sit in a cubicle, and maybe they're thinking about starting their own business. What kind of advice or what would you tell that person that's thinking about getting out or thinking about starting their own business?
There's a bunch of them, but when you just said that, you made me think, you know what I always hear from guys that get out and they're working a civilian job somewhere is that it's not so much, they got out for some reason usually. And they always talk about, what I miss most is the camaraderie. I miss the guys. I miss hanging out. Take all your friends with you. Go start a business that all your friends also believe in just as much as you. And so the team is still together.
Absolutely.
And then you have, you don't have anybody, you're not surrounding yourself with people that are going to be yes men. Like every time I have more stupid ideas, Scott, that I throw down the hallway and they're just like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard come out of your mouth. And okay, that's not going to happen. All right. So surround yourself with people that are willing to call you out on stuff that needs to be called out.
So I appreciate, again, I would just want to thank you again for taking your time out of your busy day, or both of your jobs. And how can people learn more about RuckPack and what's going on with your company, and how can they, we'll wrap it up, and then how can they connect with you?
Check out RuckPack.com, first and foremost. That's our website. And then you could also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social stuff. We're all on there. You could usually just search for RuckPack on all of those, and you'll find us. And let's see, on the website, you can use a contact form. I've said this. We're on Fox and Friends. Again, another free PR thing. We're on Fox and Friends, and same thing. I said, hey, if anybody has any comments, contact me directly. I must have had 100, 200. We're still going through them, but I'm going to get back to every single person that jumps on there and asks questions.
Well, we thank you again for taking the time to on the show. Everyone, go find out more about RuckPack if you don't know about it, and look for in January at a Walgreens near you. RuckPack's going to be on the shelves.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. I really appreciate you having me on. Call me back anytime, man.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you, Rob, very much.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Did you enjoy that interview as much as I did? I can tell that Rob and RuckPack are going to go places. They've already taken off, and I can tell that it's only going to go up from there. I loved when Rob talked about getting rejected from Shark Tank, going out, filling out the form on Help a Reporter Out, getting a full-page magazine article, having the producers call him from Shark Tank out of the blue, getting on the show, all the steps that he took. Great, actionable things that you can do and just learn from. And I'm excited for what came out of this episode. I'd like to ask you a quick favor. If you're on an Apple device or you have iTunes, please go in, give us a star rating. If you have another 30 seconds, go in and write us a review. We love the feedback, but it also helps us get found in the rankings on iTunes, so we would really appreciate it. Stop by Command Your Business. You can see where you can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. You can sign up for our email newsletter, and you can hit me up there in the comments, or you can drop me an email directly at scott@commandyourbusiness.com. Now fall out and have a great day.